week 2 of the 2017 legislative session saw House members get back to work discussing bills and hearing testimony at committee meetings. Let's take a look back at what happened during the past week.
On Monday, House committees heard numerous overviews to help get members up to speed on topic areas. For example, the House Legacy Funding Finance Committee received an overview of the Legacy Fund, including its history, structure, and challenges. Several concerns were brought up, including the constitutional language that requires legacy money not be used to replace traditional funding. Judy Randall, Deputy Legislative Auditor for the Office of the Legislative Auditor's Program Evaluation Division, testified during the meeting.
The more information that you all could have about how projects have been funded, we think the better. Now, last year, the legislature did require some additional reporting for agencies and organizations that were requesting appropriations from 2 of the funds, from the Parks and Trails and from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Funds. And so that, we think, is a good step in terms of having more information, more transparency about where money has come for these projects in the past, if they're new projects. If it's an existing project, but they're asking for legacy money, how is that justified? Are we doing the project faster? Are we doing more of the project? Things that get at supplementing rather than supplanting the legacy or traditional sources of money.
Representative Steve Green, a Republican from Foston, said the OLA should concentrate on identifying where violations may be occurring with legacy fund spending.
You know, the responsibility for you is big, but I would also say that the legislature did vote on those amendments and to the legacy amendment. So the decisions that you have aren't really to look at, I guess, and say, will this affect the legacy fund, because that's already been decided. The decision that you make or that you're looking at was there a violation? And then it comes back to the legislature, and we'll deal with the violations and where to go from there. This is really serious to me. This is something that the people voted on for our Constitution, and I have many complaints from my district as to how the money's being spent and where it's being spent and what's happening in our area because of it.
On Tuesday, some members of the Future Farmers of America gave a presentation to the House Agriculture Finance Committee on the FFA's annual Agriculture Policy Conference experience. Martha Moaning, a 10th grade member of the Triton FFA chapter, expressed admiration for the work that lawmakers do.
All these different tools that I know I will utilize way beyond this conference, and one of those was learning about how to be an authentic leader. And one of the surprising things that I learned or hadn't really realized before was just how much of a sacrifice this is of your time, and that you do that for the people of Minnesota. So I'm so grateful for that. Thank you.
Keegan Zimmerman, a high school junior and member of the Red Rock Central FFA, told members about the mock committee meeting attendees held and legislation they introduced on issues they believe to be important to agriculture.
So one big problem that we see is ag media that is escaped into the public of abuse of animals that isn't always representative of farmers. So we really feel passionately about this, and we want to put a good face on agriculture. So we feel passionately that agriculture should have a good name, and it shouldn't be legal that media is obtained through not legal ways. There should be a good face on agriculture, and the media that is bad should be presented immediately so that these problems can be addressed.
Representative Tim Miller attended the mock meeting and came away impressed.
I want to commend, I sat in on the mock committee hearing before this, and I want to commend all of you for the incredible work that you did. I was very impressed. You vetted down the bills down to what you thought was most important to talk about. And Mr. Chair, I can tell you that the bills that they were looking at were pretty much the things that we're discussing in this committee itself for other committees. I was impressed with the discussion that you had, the questions that you have, and I commend the teachers and the other people that supported you in it.
The House Health and Human Services Finance Committee received an overview from the Department of Health on Wednesday. Dr. Edward P. Ellinger, the state's health commissioner, shared where Minnesota ranks among the healthiest states in the country.
Minnesota, as you're well aware, is a really healthy state. We're the 4th healthiest state in the nation, according to the United Health Foundation's state health rankings. We have the 2nd longest longevity in the country. We have the #1 healthcare system in the country. And many of the things that we're doing, I can't take credit for a lot of those, or the current department. A lot of what the health that we have today is because of the investments that were made 20, 30, 40 years ago.
What was expected to be a short session on Wednesday turned into a debate on Republican health insurance cost assistance bill. DFL members unsuccessfully made motions to re-refer House File 1 to different committees so that the bill could get more vetting.
It is clear in the budget or in the proposal that we see before us that the Department of Human Services is being asked to work in partnership with MMB to verify eligibility. That is going to also incur costs at the Department of Human Services. We don't know what those costs are because we don't have a fiscal note yet. For those reasons, because we don't have a fiscal note, because we don't know the impact of surprise billing on public programs, and because we don't know what the cost to the Department of Human Services will be when we implement this bill, this piece of legislation should go to the Health and Human Services Finance Committee so that we can hear it there, we can understand what those costs are, and for that reason, I ask you to vote for this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The bill approved that night by the House Ways and Means Committee awaits action by the full House. On Thursday, the House Taxes Committee heard 3 different bills, including House File 85. Representative Joe McDonald sponsors the bill that would repeal the estate tax. The state now imposes a tax on estates of residents or individuals who own tangible property in Minnesota when they die.
In Howard Lake, at the Howard Lake Farm Supply Store, when I was purchasing some rebar, putting up signs, client, a friend, family member who said that their family farm had to be sold because the parents died, the farm was given to the children, and they simply didn't have the resources or the revenue to keep the farm. So for 100 years, this farm, this land that they sweat, toiled, and produced great crops had to be sold because the children simply couldn't afford it. I don't need any other evidence that this tax is a bad tax and an unfair tax, personally. That's all I need to know. And then from that, many others in my district have shared that they are in that same boat and possibly could lose their family farm. So for those who are moving out of state, there's great Ralph, there is some evidence. Peter Nelson will be down here to share some of that. 4 people alone in Delano, and it's a small town, it's only 5,464 people, have moved out of Minnesota. 6 months and 1 day, they're out of there. Well, they could put up with a cold, they're not wussies. We here in Minnesota are pretty tough. They moved out because they can save their families and their generations of families a lot of money from the government extracting and through coercion and taking it from the death tax.
Representative Paul Marquardt weighed in during the discussion, saying he'd rather see tax relief in other areas.
When I look at the priorities, I'm going to put the owners of the $1.3 million homes and the 75,000 farms and the 503,000 small business owners who have seen property taxes go up over $700 million the last 2 years. That's going to be a bigger priority for me and I think for this committee. And when you look at trying to provide some Social Security relief for the 600,000 seniors out there, I think is going to be a bigger priority.
For more coverage of the Minnesota House of Representatives, check out our Session Daily coverage on our website, www.house.mn/sessiondaily.